but there's a couple of people I have to thank who made this possible. First, I'd like to thank God, who makes all things possible. My mother, Joseph Jackson, Catherine Jackson, Barry Gordy, Diana Ross, Gladys Knight, Quincy Jones, I love you. David Blaine, your magic is real and I believe in you.
Britney Spears is dancing across the stage in a leather cap, a giant cake wheeled out behind her, and thousands of people are chanting one name. Then Michael Jackson walks out, and something strange happens. He looks at the trophy in her hands like it's the greatest honor of his life. It wasn't real. There was no such thing as an Artist of the Millennium award. Spears had simply called him that in passing while wishing him a happy birthday on his 44th. But Jackson took it completely literally, launching into a heartfelt acceptance speech, thanking God, his parents, and fans around the world, while Spears stood beside him, quietly realizing what had just happened. It's remembered today as one of the most awkward moments in award show history. But look closer, and it reveals something else entirely. For one night, even one of the biggest pop stars on the planet was so eager to make Michael Jackson feel celebrated, she accidentally invented an award just to see him smile. That's the effect Michael Jackson had on people. Entire rooms full of famous, confident, camera-ready stars would lose their footing the moment he walked in. And nowhere was that clearer than on a movie set 10 years earlier with one of the most famous women on Earth.
Photographed you, he was going to get you. Everyone loved being photographed by him because you looked so beautiful. He had that special light, which the light is actually like now. I remember when he first shot me for LA Style cover with that light, I was just like, oh my God, I love it, I love it. When he called me, I just walked off this fashion show of Gianni Versace in Milan, and he said, you're going to be getting a phone call, pick up. I'm like, who from? Michael Jackson. I'm like, yeah, right. He's like, no, you are going to be getting a phone call from Michael Jackson. I remember running to tell Gianni Versace, who knew Michael Jackson. He's so excited for me, more excited for the phone call than I was. Yes, the phone call came, and I remember saying, I've got 20-something shows to do, and it would be irresponsible for me to cancel my fashion show, so I cannot do your video.
Naomi Campbell was one of the most in-demand supermodels in the world, booked solid, 30 shows lined up in Paris. Then her phone rang, and Michael Jackson was on the other end, asking her personally to star in his new video. She turned him down. She had commitments, she explained, and she couldn't just cancel on people who were counting on her. Most artists would have moved on to someone else. Jackson didn't. He simply offered to pay out every single show so she could be free to do it anyway. Years later, Campbell would describe the shoot as something closer to playing with a childhood friend than working with the biggest star in music. They cracked jokes between takes. They chased each other around the set with water guns. She called him a genius and admitted she'd been more than a little starstruck the moment he actually said her name on the phone. What's remarkable is that this wasn't unusual for Jackson at all. He didn't just want famous faces in his videos. He wanted people who could match the moment. And sometimes that meant an even bigger star had to step aside first.
Exposed to more things than he had been exposing himself to, so I tried to have an influence on him. I don't know if he's going to heed any of my advice. After all, he's done pretty well for himself without me, so.
Would you have to be the boss in any relationship?
In a professional relationship?
In a personal relationship?
The boss. No, I don't want to be the boss all the time. I would like to be with someone who is my equal, so it's a back and forth kind of a thing. You know, sometimes they're in charge, sometimes I'm in charge. You know, it's a compromise.
Before Naomi Campbell ever got that phone call, the lead role in the Closet belonged to someone else entirely, Madonna. According to producer Babyface, who worked closely with Jackson at the time, Madonna began making a string of demands once she was on set. Jackson, notoriously particular about how his own projects came together, made a decision that surprised almost everyone around him. He let her go. It's a small moment in the grand story of his career, but it says something important. Michael Jackson wasn't simply collecting famous names to stand next to him. He wanted the right chemistry, the right energy, someone who would show up and make magic rather than make requests. And once Naomi Campbell replaced her, the two stayed close for years afterward. But not every star who orbited Jackson's world got there through fame first. One of them was completely unknown when she first stepped onto his stage, and what she saw backstage stuck with her for the rest of her career.
So you weren't happy? Was it the chemistry that caused it to fall apart then?
Well, it's not that I was unhappy. I mean, it was an experiment. He called me. He wanted to write a song with me. I mean, he approached me, and I was like curious. It's hard for me to write music with people because I have to really know them and trust them and feel that I can really make myself vulnerable, because when you write, you have to sort of bear a little bit of your soul, and you have to not be afraid to make mistakes and to sing in front of someone. You know, it's in a way, it's a very intimate experience. So I wasn't sure it was going to work, even though I think he's talented. So we got together, and he played me a bit of music. It was a very unfinished track, and he said that he wanted to call the song "In the Closet," and I said, "Really?"
Well, hold it a second before we get...
Long before Sheryl Crow had a single hit of her own, she was standing just a few feet from Michael Jackson every night, singing backup vocals on his Bad World Tour. She's talked about the experience since, describing what it was like watching him command entire stadiums from the inside, night after night, before she had any real career of her own. On a podcast years later, she admitted just how surreal it was, working alongside one of the most famous people alive, while she was still trying to figure out who she was as an artist. That tour became a kind of masterclass for her, watching Jackson's discipline, his stage presence, his relentless attention to detail. It's easy to forget that before Sheryl Crow was headlining her own arenas, she was one of dozens of young talents who got a front row seat to Jackson's genius and came away completely changed by it. But while Crow admired him from the stage, one of the biggest actresses in the world admired him from somewhere far more personal, her own living room.
Elizabeth Taylor. You want the little footstool?
In town.
Well, let's see now, we've been on the air 29 years and 6 months. We got about 3.5 months to go, and we finally got you here.
Well, thank you. You know, I'm not plugging anything. I have nothing to sell. I really wanted to come on the show and thank you for 30 years of brilliant entertainment.
Well, isn't that nice?
It began with an apology. Elizabeth Taylor left one of Jackson's concerts early because she couldn't see the stage properly, and Jackson, worried he disappointed her, called her in tears to ask what went wrong. What was supposed to be a quick, apologetic phone call turned into a 3-hour conversation. From there, something unexpected happened. One of Hollywood's most legendary actresses, a woman who had already lived an entire lifetime of fame by the time she was a teenager, found herself completely captivated by the much younger pop star. She would later go on television and describe him in language usually reserved for describing icons, calling him brilliant, calling him one of the greatest stars the world had ever known. In 1989, standing at an award show, she was the one who first called him the King of Pop out loud, on camera, in front of the industry. The nickname stuck for the rest of his life. Taylor wasn't just a friend. She was, by her own account, one of his most devoted admirers, and she stayed that way until the very end, appearing at his funeral in her wheelchair, one of his oldest and most loyal friends, saying goodbye. But Taylor wasn't the only music legend who ended up completely won over by Jackson. One of them had actually known him since he was a child, and watched him grow into someone even she couldn't quite believe. When the Jackson 5 first arrived at Motown Records in 1968, Michael Jackson was 9 years old, and Diana Ross was already one of the biggest stars in the world. For years, she was positioned as his mentor, the glamorous older star showing a group of kids from Indiana how to move, how to perform, how to become something bigger than themselves. But somewhere along the way, the roles quietly reversed. By 1989, Ross stood on a stage handing Jackson the Soul Train Heritage Award, and in that moment gave him a title that would follow him for the rest of his life, the King of Pop. The mentor had become the admirer. Ross would go on to defend him publicly for decades, calling him, even years after his death, a magnificent and incredible force. The woman who once introduced him to the world as her discovery ended up being introduced again and again as one of his most devoted friends. It's a reminder that Jackson's ability to leave people starstruck didn't fade with age or familiarity. It only seemed to grow stronger, even among the people who'd known him the longest. And for at least one other music icon of his generation, that same magnetic pull turned into something the two of them apparently kept almost entirely private.
This award honors you for your consistent artistic and technical excellence in all forms of video and for raising the standard of the art form to new horizons.
Thank you, Whitney.
You're welcome.
To all the fans around the world, thank you very much, and I love you. Thank you, Whitney.
You're welcome.
To all the fans around the world, thank you very much.
By 1991, Whitney Houston and Michael Jackson were arguably the two biggest voices in the world, and their paths crossed often enough that a real friendship formed. They performed together, supported each other publicly, and by most accounts, understood something about each other's lives that almost no one else could. According to Jackson's former bodyguard, that closeness briefly became something more, with Houston reportedly spending time at Neverland Ranch during this period. It's important to say clearly, this account has never been confirmed by either star and should be treated as one man's second-hand claim rather than established fact. What is well documented is the mutual respect between them. Houston performed his songs at his 30th anniversary concert in 2001, and the two remained close for years, right up until both of their lives ended under eerily similar circumstances. Whatever the true nature of their bond, one thing is clear from every account. Whitney Houston, one of the most powerful vocalists of her generation, considered Michael Jackson family. And she was far from the only global superstar who felt that pull toward him, one that even years, awards, and constant exposure to fame never seemed to wear off.
From a fabricated award dreamed up by Britney Spears, to a supermodel who couldn't say no, to legends like Elizabeth Taylor and Diana Ross, who found themselves just as captivated by him as the rest of the world was, the pattern never really changed. Fame didn't make people immune to Michael Jackson. If anything, it made his effect on them even more obvious, because these were people who were used to being the ones everyone else got starstruck over. Maybe that's the real story here. Michael Jackson didn't just perform for the world. Somewhere along the way, he became the moment that even the world's biggest stars couldn't quite believe they were standing in. If this look behind the curtain surprised you, let us know in the comments which moment caught you off guard the most. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories from the King of Pop's extraordinary life.